about what we can actually say, even if it's 60 seconds. Like, what's the main point?
I think we're live now.
Let's see. Okay.
Okay, we are live. I can't go live on Instagram. Reason. Yours is on. All right, let's get started.
All right. So we're live?
I think so.
Are we live?
Mostly live.
Mostly? Oh dear. It's always crazy when you decide to do something new. It's like chaos. Like you can't figure it out. This is going wrong. I can't even see myself, but that's okay. Right there? Mm-hmm. Oh, hey guys. Hey guys. I believe we're live. Yeah. If you're joining and you can hear us, you can see us, can you do us a favor and type a fire emoji in the chat or anything that you're feeling like, whatever however you're feeling today, if you're feeling happy, you're feeling sad, you're feeling exhausted like me. I've done the most today. And yes, I feel like this is a great, just catch your breath type of moment. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely.
All right. Well, I should have started by saying good evening, or maybe good morning, or good afternoon, depending on when you're going to watch this. My name is Nkechi Vaughn.
Hey, I'm Curtis Vaughn.
This is my commander-in-chief. Stop saying that. He's always like, why are you saying that? This is my commander-in-chief. Let me tell you, for those who are moms, yes, you understand what I mean when I say daddy fixes it. This is daddy fix it ultimate, the ultimate daddy fix it. And that's why I call him my commander-in-chief, because he's literally my brain, like the better version of my brain, the best version of my brain. And I'm not even kidding. So anyways, we're here, we're live. After scrambling, went to the farmer's market earlier with the kiddos today for a homeschool field trip with our co-op. Came back, hustled, got some schoolwork done, some writing and math and all of this fun stuff. What have you been up to today?
Getting ready for this.
Getting ready for this. I love it.
It may not seem like it, because I know there's a lot of jank going on here.
Yeah, so we're making a janky live. Hey now, high five, babe. This is our first janky live video, and we're doing this. And we're talking about this topic that just dropped in our spirits this morning. It's from failure to freedom, discovering the power of limitless belief. That's a kind of like a word salad, but I like the from failure to freedom, because that can mean so many different things to so many people, right? What do you think? What do you think about from failure to freedom? Those are like, yeah. What do you think about that?
I always think about mindset.
Okay.
I always think about mindset. It starts with the mindset, but I'll let you start us off with a
conversation. Feel free. You can start. You can start. Like, what is from failure to freedom really mean? And hey, by the way, if you're joining us live, just drop in the chat where you're joining us from, and just say hello. We love you guys. We're here because we really feel called to start just sharing our story. And we hope we never arrive anywhere, whether it's in our faith, our family, or in our business or anything that we're actually tasked with. So that's why we're here just sharing our journey, because we're having conversations off screen all day, and our heart just goes out to people who are maybe us 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So we're just here just to kind of encourage everyone and perhaps learn something as we just chat and make this party worthwhile for everyone who's joining. Sound like a plan, right?
Sounds like a good plan.
Awesome. So from failure to freedom, discovering the power of limitless belief. So maybe we can start by just setting the stage. First of all, where does this concept even come from? Failure, freedom. It sounds like a continuum, but I almost feel like it's not a straight line to get from failure to freedom. And what do those two things mean to you?
I think for failure, I think a lot of people internalize it. They say, I failed at this thing. I did this wrong. Therefore, I am a failure. And I was watching Russell Brunson this morning. He kind of commented on failure. He's like, you can't look at something that doesn't work and internalize it and say, I am a failure. If you do that, then it motivates you and stops you from wanting to proceed forward, even when you should. Even though you might have failed at something, you can't consider I have failed. Don't internalize it. Just this particular method of doing this thing doesn't happen to work this particular way. And you just keep reiterating. And I think about Thomas Edison, who invented the light bulb. And some snarky reporter said, man, you've been at this like 10,000 times and it still doesn't work. He's like, well, no, I found 10,000 ways it doesn't work. But at 10,001, it did work, So if you keep pressing forward, he could have easily internalized and said, you know what, I'm a failure because this thing hasn't worked. I tried 10,000 different methods, but he didn't, he never, at least he could not have internalized it.
Right.
And said, I'm a failure because this particular method doesn't work, or this particular method doesn't work. I just found a way it doesn't work. So I just keep pressing forward. So anyway, that's my brief synopsis on, or thoughts on failure. Go ahead.
On failure. So for me, we really should just take a whole big giant step back, to be honest, and just give praise and thanks to the Most High, our Father, Yah, who many of you probably know as God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, for just giving us an opportunity to step on this platform and just to speak and to share our hearts, because in him we live, we move, and we have our being. When I think about failure.
Oh, wait. And thank you guys so much.
Yes.
We do have two people in the viewing us right now. So thank you so much for showing up. And we thank you guys for taking time.
Awesome. So I'm sure other people are getting ready to hop on as well. So whenever you get to finding this video, we hope that, it inspires you and you get to thinking, because that's why we're here. This is a party for moms, dads, singles after the end of the work week. And we want to tackle this topic because it keeps on popping up in our day-to-day lives. And I was saying, if you're just joining, we hope we never arrive at anywhere, because there's, success, quote unquote, is a continuum, right? So what I was saying is, reading Matthew 10 this morning, I just started remembering and just kind of contemplating what this topic really means. So there were a couple of examples that just kind of jumped out at me. For example, the woman with the issue of blood. So if you're not a Bible believer, if you don't know the Bible, just take the information as a story. We are Bible believers, so we draw a lot of reference from that. And that's just, it's okay, right? If you don't understand or if you disagree with this. But basically there was a woman with the issue of blood, and she had been bleeding, as a woman does once a month, except she'd been doing this for years and years and years. And she had spent so much money, trying to get well, found doctors everywhere, just trying to get well. And she was in the presence of the Messiah, and she was obviously a failure in that point, and she was unclean. And in that society, it was taboo for her to even be like walking around in the midst of other people who weren't having the same issue that she was. But something struck her, and she did not care, because she knew that there was some way that she could get help, right? She could literally flip the script of her life from being a failure to being free from what she was facing, which was extremely horrible. So when I think of from failure to freedom, I always see that as like being stuck between a rock and a hard place, and being so fed up and being so like done with what is going on in my life, right? Being so completely over whatever is going on in my life, and taking that step of just crazy faith, right? Childlike crazy faith to get to where I need to be in order to be free. You know, Yahushua, the Messiah, who a lot of us have known to be Jesus, he was one of the biggest failures of all time. Literally, like he came, you know, he was supposed to be quote unquote like a really powerful person, and he literally laid his life down and died. And yet that was seen as a failure. But guess what? That caused a massive shift for the rest of eternity, for the rest of life, right? And he ultimately won us the ultimate freedom. So I always find like there's usually like a tension between not being unhappy with where we are and where we ought to be. And that's where the journey comes into play. So when I think about from failure to freedom, that's really what I'm thinking. It's how do I get to the point where I'm so sick and tired of being sick and tired that I'm going to do exactly what I need to do to be free. And I just said a lot. So that's kind of what was on my mind when we started talking about this. So let's maybe take it a little bit deeper. So I feel like there's a facade of stability in our generation, and I want us to start drawing on our own personal stories. Are you cool with that?
Okay.
Like, so some of the personal experiences that you've had, Mr. Commander-in-Chief of the Yafo family.
Calling me that. Stop calling me that.
Take us back to maybe one moment where you realize that, okay, like that analogy of the frog being slowly boiled and not really realizing it. Can you take us to like a scenario where you realize, oh my goodness, the water is actually hot and I need to do something? Because I feel like there's a facade that a lot of us as professionals, as entrepreneurs, we're just in that facade, and it might take like a moment of truth. So
a failure, or
yeah, no, the facade of being comfortable, the facade of actually being free, but actually discovering, oh, wait a minute, I'm not actually free. So you might be comfortable.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I always give this example, but if you've watched any of my videos or anything like that in the past, we've mentioned that, I felt like 3.5, 4 years ago or so is in that ballpark. Like Yah was telling me, or God was telling me that, hey man, it's time to shift gears and start to pursue financial freedom, like actively. As a believer, I've always had like, I'll just be candid, like prophetic words that you'll be wealthy and successful and all this other stuff, but it never like truly manifested in my life. And I felt like he was saying like, now is the time. Like, you need to actively pursue this in this exact moment of your life. Get serious about it. Because at the time I was working as a photographer and videographer and shooting like a real estate property. And as he was speaking to me, I was actually shooting a foreclosed home. We usually don't shoot those type of properties. But for whatever reason, it worked out that particular day I was shooting a foreclosed home, and it was just the worst property. It was terrible, looked bad, smelled bad, trash everywhere on the floor, just run down, disheveled property. And yeah, it was in that exact moment that he was like, look, man, this is what the Satan has for you and your family if you don't actively pursue and get serious about creating generational wealth. And I know it's a personal word for me, but maybe it speaks to a lot of broader society as well. In that moment, I mean, I took it personally, like he's talking to me personally. But to be honest, as I look around 3-4 years later, you see like things like AI come into play. You see, which can literally do almost anybody's job at this point. They're putting this thing inside of robots now. So you got to have ChatGPT powered robots and Tesla and all. Like, at what point do they need people to work in these jobs? Whether you're a painter, I mean, maybe just a robot one day that could do that, or you are a graphic designer. Oh my goodness, that is definitely in jeopardy. Or maybe you work in cybersecurity, for example. Like I tell you right now, like ChatGPT could do most of those jobs if you give it the right programming and enough lead up, it could pretty much do a lot of those things. And so yeah, it was probably a personal word for me, but I take it like as a looking at larger society as a whole. Like there's a meteor coming for I think all of us. You know, we all have to retool and reskill in the days ahead. You know, and it might not be that with things in society will go on the way that it was, because you look at the Industrial Revolution that took place over like 100 years or so, but like the rapid pace at which AI is changing the game when it comes to every single thing, I think impacts everybody. So in any case, that for me was a wake up call. I didn't know it was like think it was a personal failure per se, but it was, I guess.
We were actually coasting. We were comfortable.
Yeah, we're comfortable.
Like I was working,
like
you
a
were
lot
working, you know, like it didn't seem like anything was necessarily wrong.
Yeah, we were comfortable. We
Yeah.
were in a comfortable life. But I honestly feel like I'm so glad he woke me up in that particular season, because we have launched out and retooled our skill set entirely, you know, and learned entrepreneurship at a completely different level than I knew personally, you know, 3.5, 4 years ago, you know, diving into real estate investing. You know, it's been like, I hate saying this, but
Yeah,
like,
it was
been
crazy.
like almost 6 figures in learning, you know, from some of the top tier investors out there. And wholesalers who are how they do things on a high level, like making like $500,000 a month or $350,000 a month. Some of these coaches I got trained under. So I learned like a hyper skill set of real estate investing. And so yeah, that one word from God and Yah just changed my whole life.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're so passionate about entrepreneurship. So we're so passionate about you know, just getting online and talking to people, having the Discord.
I've been so just comfortable not doing this for over 8 years. I say this all the time, but it's like, why would I want to put myself out there? And I was even having a conversation with a beloved mom friend of mine, and it's like, it's just so uncomfortable. And yes, it is so uncomfortable, but we realize that, you know, the people who are called to serve. So first of all, I think it really starts with getting absolute clarity on why you exist. I think we said this on our last live, or maybe I said it on an individual one, but why do I exist? Like, it's super critical to understand, first of all, why am I here, right? I could be doing 1,000,001 things. I have only one lifespan here on earth, right? So why am I actually here? Because if I know why I'm here and I can make a beeline directly to that particular mission, vision, and purpose, then I'm successful, right? If my actual purpose is over here, meanwhile, my current actions are over here, they can never, there's two different tangents, right? So that is the definition of failure in my mind, right? It's you're going on a different path than you really ought to be. And the only way you can actually answer that is by doing some self-discovery, you know, because we're Bible believers, we take our cues from the King of Kings, right? And we're just an extension of his kingdom here on earth. So we've done that, and that's what has really helped us solidify our why. So step one, I would say, is to solidify the why for your existence. And then once you have an idea of what that is, you know, it says in Proverbs, sell everything, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically, sell everything that you have and acquire wisdom. Yeah. Right? Because that is the difference between where we are and where we were supposed to be. It's one of two things. It's either a knowledge gap, right? Just being either ignorant or unaware of how to get there, or a wisdom gap. So you may know how to get there, but you just don't know actually the way to walk it out, practically speaking. And that's where wisdom and skill comes into place. So I said a couple of things there, like clarifying the why, and then figuring out the gaps between the destination of the vision that, you know, is put on your heart to execute against, whether it's for your family, for yourself personally, and then literally mapping out a plan to attack the skill and the knowledge to be able to get there. And all of those things really should be done, in conjunction, as we say, just making sure that you're in lockstep with the Father. So I would like to maybe transition a little bit. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay. So we're going to transition. If you've ever felt stuck, just keep on listening. We're going to maybe tackle a couple things that might help. So the failure that nobody talks about. This is what I want us to just maybe talk about a little bit. The failure, I'm sorry. I'm so used to leaning forward. You tell the passion is coming out. I'm so used to leaning forward, but you actually can't see me. So let's talk about the failure that nobody talks about. Because there's an external type of failure, but what about the internal type of failures? In your mind, the talk track that's playing. How have you discovered what those issues were, and then how have you,
oh man,
without going too deep, because I know you're really passionate about this topic, but can you maybe just touch on the failure no one is talking about, what actually happens in your mind?
Well, I mean, I like to listen to Les Brown a lot. He's a motivational speaker from like the 80s and 90s, and he talks about mindset a lot. And that's what mindset really is, like that. What's that thought process sound like?
What was yours?
As you're going through your days, and mine was just always negative. If any of us really stop and analyze like what we're thinking throughout the day, I mean, yeah, a lot of it is like Chihuahua stuff. It might be like Chihuahuas or the latest Instagram post you saw. But if you think about, or I think about, like the overarching theme of what I'm thinking, especially if I'm trying something unusual or different, it'd be like, what if this doesn't work out? What if it doesn't work out? What if it doesn't work out? What if it doesn't work out? And that used to be like the overriding thought process. And it's almost like a computer program almost, or a broken record, like going over in your head and your head and your head and your head over and over again. And every single entrepreneur or successful person I've ever come across, if you dive deep enough into their story or their history, they always talk about dealing with that voice, because you have to deal with that, the garden of your mind, as it says in As a Man Thinketh, a great book. I highly recommend it. It's a Christian-based book. Really, really fantastic book. But anyway, it's As a Man Thinketh. It talks about tending the garden of your mind, because I think inherently we're just born in a negative world overall, and we have to deal with it, because you don't have to cultivate weeds. They just grow up automatically on autopilot. They just come up, they sprout up, they do their thing. You don't have to water them. You don't have to do anything fancy to them. But if you want like a nice patch of rose bushes, for example, then I have to go out of my way to make that happen. I have to put those seeds in the ground. I have to pull the weeds up. I have to water them. I have to make sure it's in the right position to get enough sunlight. And all that. There's a lot that goes into it. There's an intentionality to seeing the garden of your mind, or my mind, grow and develop in the way we wanted to see it. And every single successful person I've ever come across, they do that intentionally. They don't just allow their mind to wander to negative spaces and just stay there. They do something. There's different methods to deal with it. Reading great books, positive books, or listening to positive messages like Les Brown or Zig Ziglar,
or the ultimate,
or read
the Bible. You doesn't get any better than that,
or reading the Bible. But at some level, the person has to deal with that. And I know I had to deal with that. And I listened to a lot of books, a lot of motivational speaking. There's just a ton of things that I've done to just kind of try to cultivate a mind of success and a mind of someone who's a winner. Because everything that we see in our lives is an extension of who we are inside. What we think about inside really impacts our lives in ways we can't really imagine, because you might make the wrong decision just on autopilot, not really realizing it. That's just negative thinking sprouting up. Like for example, like a poor person might think, what if this opportunity, is a disaster? But a positive thinking person might think, that's a great opportunity over there. I'm sure a lot of people are scared to go in that direction. So that means there's more opportunity and more of a chance for me to make a successful impact in society in that particular area. And I think that's how those things work on autopilot a lot of times. So I guess this is a long-winded answer, but you go ahead, babe.
Yeah. So I think what I would add to that is, what does the scripture say? Romans 12, does dive directly into this. And I'm just going to read from one. I read the scriptures for those of you who are kind of nerds like me, who want to read in the original, like names and meanings, that's just what I do. So it says, from verse 1, I call upon you, therefore, brothers, through the compassion of Elohim, to present your bodies a living offering, set apart, well-pleasing to Elohim, your reasonable worship. Now, this is the anchor verse, right? It says in verse 2, and do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you prove what is good and well-pleasing and perfect desire of Elohim. So to me, when I read this is an active type of exercise. When it says do not be, there's really a you before the do. So it means he's speaking to us, and you do not be conformed. So that's almost like that's kind of like it's like an offensive or defensive stance in my mind. So it's a lot of work to not conform. Like this whole world, like when you're born, we're all brainwashed to a certain extent, whether it's for good or for not good, right? So the do not be conformed, it's an active work. It's an active task that we have to take on, and especially to what the rest of society is doing. If the rest of society is doing something, then it's probably indicative that that's not the right thing to be doing. Like if they call it a consensus decision making. Like we should never put ourselves in a situation where we do what everybody else is doing because everybody else is doing that thing, right? And that's one of the things that have helped us to literally stay alive, hasn't it? Right? Like being quote unquote free and being free. And when we say freedom, we mean freedom to actually pursue our real purpose and our calling for being here. And not conforming is one major, I guess, discipline or skill set or gift. I don't know how you want to call it.
Well, I do want to speak to that. Like he says, being transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's a process.
Right.
I did not know. I had no context of how that's supposed to play out. As a believer, most of my adult life, I did not know how to do that on a practical level. Mm-hmm. But you should absolutely, like for example, take the word of Yah, God, and apply it to your life in a certain situation, and just speak words of life, because life and death is in the power of the tongue.
Right.
And you're going to eat the fruit of whatever you're thinking, because out of the belly, is going to come what you're thinking straight out of your mouth. Right. And speaking life over yourself is absolutely like indicative of something you should be doing, or I should be doing. And I do that on a regular basis. Speak life over myself in certain areas, and just say it constantly, and just say it like, I guess there's a lot of different examples, but just repeating those things over and over again, just saying those things over and over again.
That's actually called meditation.
Yeah, and just rehearsing those things and speaking life over those situations. If nothing else makes you feel better, but I've seen like miraculous things happen when I do stuff like that. Miracles happen when you do things like that, because there's creative power in our words. Because our Father, he spoke the world into existence, and we have a limited capability of doing that. In our own personal lives, we can see miraculous things happen, and I'm sure it applies to every area of faith. It says in the Bible, faith comes by hearing, and I like what Les Brown says. Like, this is not a direct quote from the Bible, but he says like faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing, and it does. It builds your faith to believe that things can change, to believe that the situation I'm looking at right now is changeable. And Yeshua talked about, or Jesus talked about, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, "Be thou cast in the sea," and you can absolutely do that. But I think you have to encourage yourself over and over again that is possible. I don't know that you come out of the womb having that kind of faith. I believe you can build it up, because faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing positive things over and over again being spoken. Because it talks about, I'm gonna stop. I could do this all day long.
Can I get?
I'll
where's
stop.
The offering bin?
I'll stop, because honestly, you can look at Joshua for a good example.
Yeah.
he was told to meditate on the word of Yah day and night.
Yeah.
And meditate, just say, like recite it, say it over and over again, think about it, just say it over again. And
that's a requirement for kings too.
Yeah, absolutely. They're supposed to write the
whole
Torah down and, have their own copy of it, So we're supposed to just saturate our minds with the right type of thinking, right type of thought process, because it's not going to happen
automatically.
Yeah, automatically.
And I'm just hearing the hearts of people thinking, okay, so how is this in my own life right now? I might be, a career mom, I might be a career dad, and I really feel like, okay, I know my purpose is not exactly to be, building another person's dream and another person's empire. It's a real thing, right?
Can I say a quote I saw today that struck me?
Do we? Should I? Okay, tell me my ear first.
No, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it.
Oh, don't, please.
You're going to mute me on this. But I'll say a quote.
Okay.
It's supposedly a millionaire said this. I saw this on Facebook. Don't blame me.
The algorithm got
The algorithm got me. But the quote said something to the effect of, a person won't have the patience to work 3 years to build their own business, but they'll have the patience to work 40 years building somebody else's.
Oh dear.
That's
wow.
Yeah.
That makes me sad because that was me.
It doesn't have to be.
That was me. And I was so afraid, I was so afraid, just literally from, I don't even know, maybe a few years after college, after working different jobs, traveling and doing all that fancy corporate stuff, which was such a blessing actually to have that experience. I just knew I was supposed to be solving problems and helping people. But my talk track, my autopilot brain kept saying, you can't do this, you need to wait, blah, 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 all these things. It's not for you. How many decades passed before we actually, well, you've been doing this for a while, so kudos to you. But for me, I was that person that this quote is actually describing. I was diligent about building another man's dream. And while there was some kind of, good trade-off in the sense that I learned a lot of skills, I knew deep down in my heart that this is not for you. You're operating like a square peg in a round hole. Do you have that thought in your mind? Like you could be doing something different. You could be serving at a higher level, maybe using in your own lane of genius, whatever that is. And that's perhaps the reason why you're so misunderstood. Perhaps. Well, hopefully, this will help you start thinking, like now is the time. Let
me speak to that. I mean, it's nobody's fault, because I think that we are taught and trained, especially if we went to public school, that we your goal is to get a job. And it's kind of beaten into you from the time you're in kindergarten all the way up to, getting your bachelor's degree or master's or PhD. It's kind of just, you're steered in that direction, because that's the way the school system was set up. It was set up to put people on this track into.
Guys.
What?
Okay. Finish talking. I have a tip for everybody. Once you're done.
But my point is if that's where you have landed and you're not happy about it, you are empowered and you're able to do something else about it. But if you're happy, hey, more power to you.
Yeah.
No condemnation, because you got a life to live, and if you're comfortable and happy and fulfilled at what you're doing, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. It's
not my job to say that that's a bad thing or not. But just for me personally, I would love to build. I love building my own legacy for my kids. That's just my own personal
thinking 3 generations ahead.
Absolutely.
So my tip for everyone who's watching is ask ChatGPT what's the purpose of the school system. Just ask ChatGPT, what's the purpose? What was the purpose? Why was the school system created? I typed that in the other day and I was floored. I was like, oh, okay. Well, thanks. Thank you so much. I'm very happy that.
What did it say?
I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it.
Okay, I'll say it.
Just no. Just let's let everyone discover and learn at their own pace. But it was pretty shocking to see everything that was said, and the reason why we should really question some of these things, right? Why does something exist? because we just inherited it. And now the repercussions of just adopting a belief system is impacting our day-to-day lives. It literally is impacting how we operate. The fact that, you know, and I know there's the pressure to provide, right? In this society, there's a pressure on like anything else. You found a stick of deodorant for almost $10 a few Sundays ago. So we understand that there's the rising cost of living, there's a pressure to provide, but could there be a different way that
don't just gloss over that?
Okay, fine.
Let's not just gloss over.
Fine. You were so
Can I say it? Because I was in Harris Teeter the other day, and I looked down to my right, looking for a bar stick of deodorant, and it was $9, guys. 900, something like that. Like, wow, this is where we are, guys. You got AI coming, you got inflation, you got Trump's tariffs, you got all kinds of crazy stuff going on in society. Yeah. So now is the time, I believe, to take great steps, great strides towards, you know, investing in yourself and growing a successful company of some sort. You know, think outside the box. Now's a great time. That's all I'm saying about that.
So I'm going to send, thank you for sharing. I'm going to share one last tidbit before we maybe switch gears a bit. So how did I discover the power of limitless belief? And by the way, I have not arrived. I think we said that at the beginning. May we never arrive, okay? May we always be learning, always be, you know, pursuing perfection, you know, which is really what's required of us is perfection, right? He wants us to be perfect, just as his son was perfect. So, and I mean our Father. How did I discover the power of one way, tangible way that I discovered the power of limitless belief is through pregnancy, believe it or not, pregnancy and childbirth. He knows the story. I did not
see that coming.
You didn't see that coming? Because this is raw, right? This is not rehearsed or anything. We didn't do any of that. Maybe we will next time. But really, you know, 8 years ago or almost 9 years ago, when we first conceived our first child, we have 3 little ones. Something told me that there was a different way to experience pregnancy, although I couldn't really like put my finger on it. And a beloved couple friend of ours, actually his best man, handed us this book called Supernatural Childbirth by Jackie Mize while I was already like maybe 3 or 4 months pregnant at that point. And I was not believing for what I grew up experiencing pregnancy, which is pregnancy was a disease. And I'm not saying that to be brash or, you know, insensitive, but that is literally what was like ingrained in my mind as a child. And I really didn't want anything to do with pregnancy, to be honest. After, you know, I had my first niece, I was like, this is not for me. Like, I'm good. And then, of course, my heart got softened and everything. And I saw the truth and the power of having more arrows in your quiver. And then we got pregnant, and then I started believing for something different. And then someone handed me this book, which is chock full of scriptures. And this lady kept on saying, just believe that you can have the best possible pregnancy. Why? Because in the scriptures, we're no longer under a curse. We are, you know, we have been bought with a heavy price. Like, you know, sickness has been removed from us. You know, things like, you know, your seed shall not, you know, cast your seed off before it's time. All these scriptures just kept on flooding me. And I was like, this is it. So guess what I did? I believed to the best of my ability. And I'm sure there was still a lot of like doubt thorns all up in there. But to the best of my ability, I believe for a quick, pain-free, drama-free, trauma-free labor and delivery. And not just that time, not just the second time, but 3 times in a row. And I give all glory to my Creator and my Father for allowing me to see what can happen if you only believe what He's actually said, if you only believe for the best in your situation. So I always encourage other moms who've read the book, believe for the best. Like, it's okay to believe for the best, but you also have to do the physical work required to make sure that, you know, your actions and your belief are not saying 2 different things, right? Because, you know, we can sometimes lie to ourselves like, but I believed. But did you do the natural thing, because faith without works is actually dead. So that happened to me, and I literally discovered, yes, it doesn't have to be this treacherous experience like I had witnessed and growing up throughout my life, and even as a young adult. There can be peace in the delivery room. Am I lying?
No, I was there. I mean, that was I can't speak to how she felt through the process, but I can definitely tell you like that from my perspective, she had a tremendous amount of peace. And everything we were believing for seemed to happen perfectly, like fast, pain-free delivery.
There was pain,
yeah.
but I overcame. I overcame the pain. I did not have yet the power of belief to eradicate the feeling of pain. Because guess what? I was even talking to someone else. Pain is just a sensation that your brain tells you to feel. It's actually, it's not actually a real thing. But sorry to cut you off.
But yeah, it was fast, definitely fast. I mean, all 3 births has been fast. And it seems to me like it wasn't like there was never any like morning sickness or anything like that.
No.
Never experienced anything like that. Yeah, it was definitely a far cry from some of the pregnancies I've seen of other families growing up, you know, or just in general. You know, usually there's like this whole dramatic, you know, morning sickness stuff, and no condemnation.
Yes, yes, it's a real thing.
She just
people.
read the book, walked it out, and it 100% worked. You know. And
so that's when I was like, oh, there's something here, and there's so many more testimonies along those lines. But I think we're kind of getting too comfortable on this live. So if you're still sticking around, thank you so much. What we're going to do now is, you know, really just give you an opportunity to discover the power of your limitless belief that's literally sitting right there, and it's just waiting to be found and discovered and utilized to its full potential. So what we're going to be doing now, and if it's okay with you, we want to actually share with you about how we serve people, right? If you're on my profile in Yvonne, you know my jam is faith, family, and business. So if you're having an issue with your faith, people call me up all the time. Hey, can you pray for me? All these things. That's just who I am. My husband is the same way. Family, student of intentional parenting. Okay, if you still not giving intentional parenting a shot and discovered how you can actually completely fundamentally change your legacy as a family, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to invite everybody to show up virtually, in person, or what have you, to the Intentional Parenting Conference that's happening here in the United States on July 12th in Maryland. It's called Time, the Currency of a Kingmaker. And I'm just going to leave it at that. If you want to find out more, there's more information. Now, the last part is business. So we serve who? Professionals and entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
So and it's, again, it's not for everybody, but if you feel like we got the wake up call, and then we started walking in the direction of what our actual purpose was. So if you feel like you're done, like you're really, really done, like you're done, either hustling or coasting like we were, because we were so comfortable, you know, coasting, just thinking everything was fine. Meanwhile, the water was actually getting hotter and hotter and hotter. If you're in any of those two camps, you're hustling really hard and you know it's not really bearing the fruit that you know it can, or if you are coasting and you know that you want to leave a generational legacy for your children, you know that there's a way that you want to become more financially free, you want to just experience a different way of living, by the way, because many people are doing that already, then we would like to invite you to come check out what we're doing on Sundays. We're having a party, not a class. It's a party. Why is it a party?
Also, well, I mean, I mean, they're going to find out when they go to the site. It's a masterclass.
It's a masterclass.
We're going to deceive you and leave you wondering, like, well, they said it was a party. It's not a party. It's a masterclass. Well, it's a masterclass that is designed and geared towards helping you learn about real estate investing. And like I said before, we spent tens of thousands of dollars hyper focusing on a certain skill set, which is real estate investing and finding deals in particular. And we serve people by teaching them that skill set. And so you walk away learning so much. One of our past attendees says like a drinking from a fire hose, which is a good thing. You know, you're learning so much. Come prepared to take notes, learn some amazing tips and tricks you're not going to find most likely on YouTube or anywhere else.
Yeah. So what I would add to that is a few years ago when we got that wake up call, real estate was the opportunity that got presented to us.
Absolutely.
And, you know, we prayed about it and ultimately jumped in, and we, you know, landed on a YouTube video. I think it was with a 7-figure investor inviting us to join his program or something along those lines. And we're so glad that we did, because today the fruit of all of that and the learning, not just on the real estate side, but in other arenas, was like Curtis just said. Excuse me, my commander-in-chief just said. You
gotta stop saying that, man. People don't get turned off.
You know, he ended up really mastering a skill set that will help like the regular person understand how to find, fund, and fortify a real estate portfolio.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about the funding.
So it's a 3-in-1 system.
A little
bit. It's a 3-in-1 system.
I'm not talking just like if you've ever been to a real estate investing course or anything like that, they teach you different methods of how to fund your deals. I promise you, is something you've never thought about or heard about.
Yeah, because that's like that's the number one objection.
Yeah, how do I find the money, guys? We're coming. We got the money for you. We got a method that's unlike anything you've ever heard before. So we're gonna leave it at that.
Yeah. So if you want to learn about our 3-in-1 system that helps us and other high-level entrepreneurs and real estate investors find, fund, and fortify your real estate portfolio. And what do I mean by fund? He just touched on it. We're not talking about the regular ways.
Don't spill the big. Okay. It's not. I'll tell you what it's not.
It's not.
It's not wholesaling. It's not flipping. It's not getting
a bunch of
credit cards or anything like that. We're talking about a system that will help you have so much cash. You'll be so cash positive. You're going to have to invest in real estate in order to offset all those amazing taxes you're going to owe. It's a good problem to have.
Right. And then the last part is fortify, right? Because I feel like a lot of the time we end up like discovering these amazing, you know, ways that shift our lives. And it's just, it's usually lost on us how to actually protect those things. Like even for me on a spiritual level, how do I protect my walk with my Father? It's an active thing that you have to do. So if you're curious, if you're serious, not just curious about what you need to do to actually maintain your assets and give it a chance to get passed down to the next generation and the next generation after that. That's what the fortify step is all about. And we teach you those things using whether it's tax strategies or so I'm just going to leave it at that because there are so many ways to skin the cat.
Don't spill the beans.
But we're inviting you because we're super excited about what this is doing for us as a family and what it's already doing for others who are listening and actually implementing these these insights already.
Yeah. So I think it's time to tell them the website.
Oh yeah. Oh,
we're 50 minutes.
Dealin90days.com. My goodness.
Wait. DEALIN, the number 9, the number 0, DAYS.com.
Yeah.
Dealin90days.com. Make sure you guys get that. Check it out.
Yeah. So we'll be live on Sunday at 4:00 Eastern time, and we just have a blast.
It's free access.
It's free access. Yeah, it's free.
Free access starts at 5. General admission starts at 5 o'clock.
Right.
If you want to get the VIP access, the full experience of the 4 hours, and get some additional tips and tricks at the beginning.
Plus our profitable properties starter kit.
Oh, you get a fantastic. We're really underselling that part.
Yeah.
But you get a fantastic book that really walks you through. It's a great starter kit with some actual scripts. Actual what else we put in there?
Yeah, so
actual purchase agreement that's been tried and tested in multiple states across the country. Works at pretty much everywhere.
Yeah,
everywhere. So it's an amazing starter kit, and you get the Q&A session at the beginning at 4 o'clock.
Right. So if you want us to like interact, answer your questions, well, I'm really struggling with this. Well, it's really optimal to jump on our VIP and you get a whole bunch of the other bonuses, like he mentioned, that really tackle mindset, skill set, and tool set when it comes to being an actual investor. So our heart for doing this live is to allow others kind of look-see behind the curtain of what we've been up to, just kind of how we think and how this might actually help someone, hopefully, who's just stuck in a rut of wanting to experience more, but they just don't feel like they can. We're on your team. We're rooting for you guys, and we really want your families to continue to thrive. However, it's going to require taking massive action today. So that's why we're here, is just to encourage you guys, love on you guys, and we'll hope to see you.
Wait. If you got some value out of this, drop some fire emojis in the chat, guys. We gotta get some audience interaction. I mean, we've talked for like 45 minutes straight, have not engaged the audience. Thank you guys so much for showing up and spending so much time with us from wherever you are right now. And we appreciate it.
We would love to do this more often. It's a Friday
I think
evening.
we're going to do this more often.
Okay, fine. We're going to do this more often then. And if you have any questions or just ideas of what we can chat about, feel free to DM us. Feel free to, drop a comment. And of course, we'll be more than happy to respond. So
absolutely.
With that being said, happy Friday.
Bye-bye.
And we'll see some of you.
How we're dressed.
What?
We never addressed how we're dressed.
Because
we were supposed to, our game plan was to drop a joke at the beginning, and we did not do it because she had us hyper dressed up in the flyer or all that nonsense.
I was just wearing jeans and a t-shirt, and I was like,
what was the joke supposed to be?
The joke was supposed to be, oh, you thought we were actually going to be dressed up for a party? Well, oops, we're just parents, but we didn't actually get to pull that off.
That would have been fire.
That would have been fire.
We should have totally done it. That would have been fire 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, but either way, thanks for being here. We love you guys. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Have a blessed weekend and get some rest.
Peace out.